Hi everyone, so today we're taking a look at what went wrong with the Sony PlayStation 4. Now I've been taking a lot of feedback after the Xbox One video, and interestingly a lot of PlayStation owners were quite happy to come forward and tell me what they thought sucked about their console. And surprisingly, a lot of that focused on the controller. Not the console itself, which everyone was pretty happy with, bar, the odd manufacturing defect or failure here and there for a warranty. But a lot of the criticism was being levelled at the controller in a way that I didn't see from Xbox One owners, who were very, very happy with the controller. And I would agree, the Xbox One controller is awesome. The PlayStation 4 controller is serviceable, it's good, but it's got some problems that make you think, Sony, what the heck were you doing? So for instance, the major grumble everyone keeps mentioning to me is battery life. And, if enough people keep talking about it, it's obviously a bloody problem. So, Sony apparently chose a battery that would last only 7 hours in this new controller. Now, we can theorise and summarise and guess at what may be causing this battery drain, but ultimately I think it's because they put a tiny battery in there that will only do 7 hours. The light bar has come into a lot of criticism, mostly tied into the battery, because people aren't using the camera necessarily, yet they've got the light bar, and we can't turn it off. And so everyone's kind of pondering to themselves, well, is the light bar also adding extra battery drain? Would I get maybe an extra hour per play session out of the battery without the LED? We'll probably never know, because Sony have said they'll never provide a way to turn that off. Presumably it's tied directly into the power distribution system within the controller itself, so there is no on-off switch, and no software way to do it either. Bit of a shame. Although you would have to guess that Sony may very well have a way to change the colours, so if they can change the colours, surely they can change it to off. You would hope. Now, some enterprising hackery types have taken apart their Sony controllers, bought a third-party aftermarket battery with roughly double the capacity, and found they've roughly doubled the battery life of their controller. So a lot of what we're seeing here is purely down to Sony deciding to save a few bucks and not put a bigger battery in. Is it likely we'll see a controller with a, high-intensity battery or a double gameplay battery coming down the line soon? Probably, because, Sony can't continue to have a controller that only lasts 7 hours on the market. It just isn't good enough. In long play sessions, we're charging our controller 3 times a day. That isn't right. There's something a bit amiss here, and for me, it just feels like Sony really dropped the ball. The most important aspect of playing a games console is being able to play it pretty much when you like. You compound the problem with the controller charging, because Sony gave away the world's tiniest micro USB cable. I think it's not even about 2 foot long. Now, considering the vast majority of us sit playing our PlayStations on a sofa 6 foot away at least from the television, what did Sony think they were doing skimping out on a 10p cable? It does seem to me that Sony this time were incredibly focused on making profit from day one, regardless. And to do that, they had to obviously make sure their console was phenomenal, spec-wise, but they then looked for other opportunities to save money. And to do that, it's accessories in the box and the controller, an area where you can quite easily save money by putting in a smaller battery. And you've got to remember, for these big corporations, saving even 10p per unit is 10 pence more profit for them. And that is something Sony is in desperate need of. Microsoft, on the other hand, could afford, if it wanted to take a bit of a bath on its units. It has plenty of cash in reserve. But again, they themselves went for around a $20 profit per unit, even with the inclusion of the Kinect in there. Now, one of the other things that people were finding slightly frustrating with Sony at this stage was their lack of media. It's quite crazy that we're almost talking about like a role reversal this time round, because one of the complaints that a lot of people were leveraging at Microsoft was that it'd become too much of an entertainment system and gaming was kind of taking a back seat. Sony flipped it the other way, and they've kind of gone hell for leather on the gaming side of things, but their media handling is, well, pretty much AWOL. You can download some standard apps like the iPlayer app, the Channel 5 app, Love Film, Netflix, but your own media, your own content you might want to, display on your Sony PlayStation 4, you can't. It's as simple as that. You could, if you wanted to, go through a rigmarole of installing Plex on your PC, using the web share, using the Sony browser to then browse your local network and pull your content down that way. But frankly, that is not what we expect from a console. What we really expect from a device that lives under our television sets is the ability to bring all of our media together in one place where it can be shown to all of our friends, and we don't really have that natively yet. Now, it's got to be said that the PlayStation 3 launched in a similar state, but this is 2014. If we want to think about it, it's 2013 when they launched these consoles, but even so, it's a massive omission not to have even the most basic level of DLNA support within the PlayStation 4. Even Microsoft managed it. It doesn't work very well, but they managed it, you know? So with the Xbox One, for instance, it is a DLNA receiver. It's not a streamer. It has no way of browsing for content, but from your PC, you can right-click on a media file and say send it to the Xbox or play to Xbox, and it will then appear on your Xbox One. Sony, on the other hand, just didn't bother, which is just such a shame. You kind of look where the PS3 was, and it had become a great all-round entertainment device. Sony have almost kind of gone back and reset themselves again. Now, for a lot of people, gaming is the only thing they're using these consoles for, and I absolutely applaud that, and I am one of them. But it's that flexibility element. It's that idea that, yes, I've invested all of this money in this games console and I'm playing brilliant games, but I'd also every so often like to bring my home pictures across onto my TV set when I have friends round, or showing home movies, or anything else that you have that is media that you would like to get onto your console. And I wasn't the only one that was finding this a little bit of a perplexing thing for Sony to have done. A lot of you mentioned the same problems. Why was this missing to begin with? And it does feel like Sony maybe only allocated a certain number of resources, and obviously their focus was on gaming here. Everything else became secondary. We can well understand that to a certain extent, because Microsoft kind of split the infinity a little bit and tried to do both, and potentially didn't achieve either particularly well. But it's a strange thing from Sony's point of view, and I really hope we don't have to wait 18 months like the PlayStation 3 for a lot of these features to catch up. In my opinion, they are a standard part of any set-top box that people expect to run under a television set. You have to have that DLNA support there. For my mind, that is a killer integration for games consoles at the end of the day. Heck, even Ouya just about manages it with their VLC app add-on. It just about works, do you know what I mean? So there's an element here of Sony kind of trying to save money, not necessarily throwing as many resources as they could have potentially done for launch to make sure they have a wide grouping of software offerings on the PlayStation 4, and some skimping out on that controller. One thing that I didn't really find a complaint from anybody about was the quality of the games, either frame rates, resolutions, or anything like that. People were very, very happy with the gaming quality. Really, it came down to a lot of rough edges. Edges that may or may not be easy for Sony to fix without particularly, for instance, bigger batteries, removing the light bar or turning it off completely on as a request, and a few other things as well. And yeah, a couple of software issues people were having. One of the main ones that I've discovered is the game record functionality. When you're, hit the game record functionality to pull the last 15 minutes of footage, invariably it doesn't seem to be capturing the moment I actually wanted to capture, which is really weird. It's happened about 5 or 6 times in Battlefield. Got some really good kill runs going on, or something cool's happened, hit that button to get a snapshot of the last 15 minutes, and then gone to have a look at the footage, and it's not there. The cool minute's just simply missing, which is weird and bizarre. Presumably a software bug of some sort. Whether it's a Battlefield issue or whether it's a Sony PlayStation issue, I'm not too sure, but it's slightly annoying. So we've taken a bit of a look at both of these consoles now. We've looked at the kind of launch issues that many of you are having, and we've had a bit of discussion as to ways that the manufacturers might be able to fix those issues, or not, as the case may be. And hey, let me know your thoughts and feedback. Do remember to like, comment, and share. And remember, these are not fanboy bashing videos. These videos are not about attacking any one particular console, but discussing openly what may be wrong and going wrong here, in everybody's opinion. Do you know why this is important? Because it's part of the process that these companies have to go through to actually learn what went wrong. They are out there scouring the web looking for complaints, comments, thoughts, ideas, and ultimately, the more people are talking about the issues that they have, the better chance we have of either A, getting fixes, or B, those being avoided in future releases. Let's keep this conversation going, let's keep it lively, but let's keep it friendly, eh?